Hi guys, welcome back to the FPL Family channel. Lee here, and today I'm going to be talking about Manchester City, a deep dive into the champions. And to be honest with you, I'm finding it hard to put Manchester City assets into my FPL team right now. I'm going to talk through some of the defending options. I'm going to talk through some of the midfielders. And right now, at time of recording, I'm not feeling like I want to talk too much about the forwards. That might all change depending on who Pep Guardiola goes and gets throughout the rest of the summer. But as of recording, they haven't signed Harry Kane. They haven't signed anybody else to replace Sergio Aguero. So let's see what business Pep might do over the rest of the summer. But I'm going to talk a bit about defenders and midfielders because that, if anywhere, I think is where I'm going to be spending my FPL pounds. And if I look at the fixtures for Man City, again, I go back to what I said before. Difficult to find a spot for Manchester City players in my FPL team right now. And the fixtures are part of that. If you look at the fixtures that they've got, obviously Norwich and Southampton and Burnley and Palace at home all look like really great fixtures where you'd probably want to captain a Man City player. But there's no consistency there. It's up and down. It's away at Spurs. It's then it's the Norwich game, and it's Arsenal, Leicester. Then it's Southampton, Chelsea, Liverpool. Before it gets a bit nicer with Burnley, Brighton and Crystal Palace. So from game week, that's the first 10 game weeks there. So from game week 8, you might want to start looking at them. But from game weeks 1 to 8, very up and down. But you know what you're going to get with Man City. I'm not going to say guaranteed returns, but listen, they're the champions. I expect them to be strong again this season. I expect Pep to make a couple of signings between now and the end of the season, and I think they're going to be strong. Let's have a look at the defenders then. If you're going to invest at the back, some, I think, reasonably priced defenders there from Manchester City. And what I've done is I've thrown Robbo and Trent in there as well, because if you're going to look at a Man City defender, you're probably going to be looking at them with your premium defenders in mind. So could you have, Trent, Robbo, as well as Cancelo and Diaz? Yeah, sure, that's a lot of your budget going into your back line there in FPL. So you're probably going to be making a decision if you want a Cancelo or a Diaz, or Stones is a bit different because he's actually quite a nice price at 5.5. But if you're looking at Cancelo or Diaz, who were the two key FPL assets for us last season, you're probably going to be doing it with I've got Trent, I've got Robbo in mind, so maybe I want one or the other. But anyway, thought I'd chuck him in there just for the sake of comparison more than anything. And actually, when you look at some of the stats tables on Fantasy Football Scout, and all of the data that you can see today was taken from Fantasy Football Scout. So if you're not a member of FF Scout yet, hit in the description below, have a look at the links. There's a link there for you to go sign up and become a member before the start of the season. Now, Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, when you sort this data by penalty area touches, Robbo is right out there ahead of Trent, actually. Now, a lot of that's to do with the amount of minutes that Robbo played, some 300 minutes there, more than Trent. But actually, Robbo really stands out. And João Cancelo and, of course, Ruben Dias, you wouldn't expect Dias to be making as many penalty area touches. You'd expect him to be offering threat from set pieces. But Cancelo was getting forward quite a lot, playing a little bit out of position, sometimes being deployed in midfield last season by Pep. So Cancelo is the one I think you want to have a look at if you're thinking about penalty area touches. And actually, when that translates into attempts, Cancelo there with 35 attempts if you look towards the right-hand side of the table, 15 of those in the box. Ruben Dias, 14 and 14. So despite this kind of freer role that Cancelo's got to get forward, that's threat from set pieces absolutely still there from Ruben Dias. Stones is the one that's actually translating those into FPL points, though, interestingly, because if you look at the goals column, this is the one that counts, right, from an FPL perspective. 4 goals, 4 from inside the box. Stones was absolutely a threat from set pieces. They both were. And I remember a goal, I think maybe 2/3 of the way through the season. Can't remember the game exactly. But it was a Ruben Dias assist and then a Stones goal, because Dias was up there with the flick on, Stones bang with the goal. So actually, both of them are absolutely looked for from set pieces. So you want to take a look at them. That's not to say you shouldn't look through the rest of the team. And I think Zinchenko's in line for more minutes this season at left back. But actually, it's Dias and Cancelo, I think, that will dominate our FPL thinking again next season. And if you recut that data from purely looking at a penalty touches perspective and start to look at how the players are translating that dominant area of the field into actual attempts. So what's this data saying? This is saying, okay, it's okay to have penalty area touches, Robertson, for example, with 99, but are you actually translating that into efforts on goal? And Robbo, as you can see, kind of is with 5 attempts on target. It's okay, not bad, but actually it's Trent and João Cancelo that are that are ensuring that those penalty area touches with 84 and 75 are translating into attempts on goal, with 12 for Trent and 11 for João Cancelo. So actually, not a massive amount of difference there between Trent and João Cancelo in terms of attempts on goal. And actually, when you look at the minutes that have been played, Trent played, almost, 700 more minutes than João Cancelo. So again, this comes back to basically the perennial argument with Pep and with Man City, which is, if you're going to go into Man City, if you're going to go for a João Cancelo at 6 million, you've got to be prepared that he's not going to play every single game. You've got to be prepared that he's going to be rotated. If you want the assurity of starts that also comes with the attempts and the goals and the assists, then you've got to pay a bit more. You've got to go for a Trent, or you've potentially got to go for a Robertson. But don't overlook the Man City defenders. Despite the fixtures looking difficult at the beginning of the season, they were, arguably, I guess you would put arguably they're the best defence in the Premier League last season. But a lot of Man City fans wouldn't argue with that. They would say, yes, we were the best defence. And if you want goal attempts and if you want assist potential, I think João Cancelo is your man at 6.0. Or if you want goal threat from set pieces, I would go for Stones over Diaz. No doubt Diaz is a threat, but Stones is the one that actually last season was turning those attempts into real goals. 4 goals for Stones last year. So really, really good. So that's your defenders. Let's have a look at a stat, or at least a graphic that Sam, I think, brought out or is about to bring out for the Manchester United video. She put this together and I've completely nicked it from her video. But she looked at this from a Manchester United perspective in terms of penalty box touches, final third touches, and touches in the opponent's half. And she will give the rhetoric around Manchester United. But there is no doubt that Manchester City top for each of those 3. So penalty area touches, touches in the final third, in the opponent's half. Man City dominate possession. They dominate and they overwhelm the opposition from a touches in their half perspective. They really put the pressure on. So should we therefore be looking more at their midfielders and at their front line? Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, difficult, I think, still to look at their forwards. And again, if they go and sign Harry Kane, perhaps I'll need to redo this video from scratch, guys, because Harry Kane will totally change my thinking in terms of looking at Manchester City from attacking perspective, because I think he's going to be in a lot of teams, Harry Kane, if he goes to Man City. But right now, he is still a Spurs player, so we're not going to discuss him in this video. Instead, let's talk about the midfielders. And what I've done here is sorted by minutes played. So again, another perennial issue when it comes to Manchester City is who's going to get the game time. And again, it's one of those, depends on your sort of management style, guys. If you want to go into Manchester City midfield and can just accept the fact that you've got Man City players there, they're going to get rested and rotated, which actually last season was something that we could accept, I think, as FPL managers, because the way that the game panned out over the course of the season was such that you could spread your funds in FPL. You could have a pretty good bench. You could have a squad of 15. So if you wanted to go in on a Sterling or a Mahrez or even a De Bruyne towards the end of the season, you could do that, safe in the knowledge that if they didn't play, you got somebody coming off the bench. But even then, that rhetoric was kind of stunted by the fact a lot of us had Gundogan anyway. So Gundogan, they were only with 2,030 minutes, but goodness me, did he make it count when he played those minutes? Let's see what he got. 6 goals, 12 assists. That was De Bruyne. Gundogan, I thought that was too many assists for Gundogan. 13 goals for Gundogan, 2 assists. He really was an FPL darling for us last season. At 7.5, does he put himself into a price bracket for next season, which is slightly off-putting, given that he's going to be rested and rotated? Not one of the younger players of the squad either, Gundogan, so you've got to think that Pep is going to kind of protect his legs and protect his minutes. So at 7.5, I am a little put off by Gundogan, I have to say. I think there's other options at 7.5, like Diogo Jota. We'll talk about him, or I did talk about him in the Liverpool video. If you haven't checked that out yet, go check that out on the channel. At 7.5, I think there's better options, particularly as Liverpool's fixtures, if you're going to go into Jota, they look better at the beginning of the season than Gundogan. But don't rule out De Bruyne at 12 million. Listen, he kind of had a bit of a stunted Euros, didn't he? I was expecting Belgium to go a little bit further in the Euros than they did. So he will be back in pre-season. We would have had a little bit of a break, although he did play a lot of minutes for Belgium. So I expect him to come back in and start in game week 1 in that Manchester City side. Are you going to go in at 12 million? It's going to be very difficult to put him and Fernandes and Salah and maybe Kane if he goes to Man City as well. And I think a lot of FPL managers will overlook De Bruyne because of those fixtures. If you look at the Man United fixtures, look at the Liverpool fixtures to kick off the season, and you can look at those videos elsewhere on the channel, both Salah and Fernandes look like really, really good options, given that Salah's had a full rest over the course of the summer. Fernandes has had a little bit of a rest. Of course, Portugal didn't go quite so far, and he was used kind of sparingly, wasn't he, in that side? So I'd expect both Salah and Fernandes to start the season on a high, and that might put me off going into De Bruyne at 12 million as well. But listen, rule him out at your peril. I'm expecting another big season from De Bruyne. Elsewhere, the ones that attract me, Phil Foden, despite only having only 1,613 minutes, 9 goals, 5 assists, reasonably priced at 8 million. Again, they've put him right in the Jack Grealish bracket. FPL doing what FPL does best, which is making you choose between two key assets there. So actually a difficult choice to make if you're going to go in at that bracket. And of course, if you were going to go 0.5 more, you can start to look at Havertz as well. And of course, you've got Gundogan and then Jota slightly below. So lots to choose from in that midfield, mid-priced midfield bracket. But Foden at 8 million, if he can start to get more starts, only 17 starts there, as you can see. Only Torres had fewer than that. Did he come on and make an impact in a lot of games? Yes, he did, Foden. So don't rule him out off the bench. But at 8 million, you're going to want to see more starts, I think, and more minutes, knowing that Foden can translate that into goals. Despite having the most minutes, I don't see Rodri as an FPL asset. I think obviously that's reflected in the cost there, 5.5. I think there's better options elsewhere in the game at 5.5. And of course, he plays in that central defensive midfield role, so I'm not expecting him to be too high on our FPL radars again this season. Sterling second in the list for playing more minutes, and I was kind of surprised when I pulled this data and looked at that, because in my mind I thought Sterling didn't get too many starts, did he? Or didn't? He's subbed a lot, right? But actually, no, not the case. 28 starts, only got hauled off 3 times by Pep Guardiola and came on 3 times as well as a sub. So got plenty of minutes, 10 goals, 7 assists. Let's see if the Raheem Sterling that we saw at the Euros for England can come back and really carry on that momentum and that form that he showed internationally at a club level. I think he can, but at 11 million, goes back to what I said before about those premium midfielders. There's a lot of people looking at Salah and Fernandes for their starting 11 in game week 1. So is there space for Sterling there at 11 million? As a nice differential, if you want to be a bit different on game week 1, he really could be. So there we go, guys. That's Manchester City. Very difficult to talk about any of their FPL assets without talking about the famed Pep Roulette and who's going to play when and what minutes each player is going to get. Very difficult to pick in the midfield. I think if you want to go into the defence, it's probably it's probably Diaz or Cancelo, as we talked about many times last season. Let me know, guys, what am I missing from a Manchester City perspective? Let me know who you're thinking about getting in from the champions in your FPL team. And I want to know in the comments, if Harry Kane comes to Man City, is he straight in your team at 12 million? Let me know, guys, in the comments. Leave us a like before you go. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the FPL Family channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.